Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings 2021 updated waiver wire pickup rankings and injury report. If you missed the show on Sunday evening that I'm doing every single week, this week it was with Chris Meany, we go over the bulk list of guys and try to put them in order, and then I contextualize them, put them in my article, which you can find on dknation.com or just the hyperlink down in the description. And then I'm going to do this show, a very quick show, in case you don't have an hour to spend listening to two guys yuck it up for a while. So I'm going to try to condense the injuries and by position with some context, all in this quick show. You can find the time codes in the description if that's what you want. I do have a few notes. Remember to smash the like button to the video, subscribe to Mayo Media Network, and in the comment section, give me your best pickup, a guy you would actually spend fab bucks on this week. It could be a streamer, it could be a running back, receiver, or any player that is currently available. The way that I do this is look at ESPN leagues and look at who is owned in less than 60%. Now, I encounter this every single year, so I'm going to only say it once, that I get that in your league, some of these guys might be owned. That's why there's a list of ranking in order. So if the first guy is owned, then it would become the second guy. I don't think that there is a must-have guy right now on the waiver wire, but maybe you feel a little bit differently. So coming up on Mayo Media Network early on Tuesday morning, Lauren Carpenter is going to have her entire breakdown. Maybe she differs from me on this to give you some more voices on the waiver wire. And Pete Overzet is going to have his week 1 DraftKings early look and breakdown. That's over on the Fantasy Football Picks and Bets audio feed, but the videos will be up on Mayo Media Network. I have $1,000 to give away. Rate, review, and subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience on Apple Podcasts. Leave a 5-star review, something you enjoy about the show, Twitter handle or email address, and boom, you're in the draw. We're giving away the winners on Wednesday. And the Listeners League link, it's been shrunk from 5,000 to 3,000 people. That's probably where we're going to go with for most of the year. That link is now available in the description. It's the only place that you can get it. So let's fill that up right away. 3 max entry, $15 to play, and no rake, the best tournament on DraftKings. If you want to play in the Monday night game, runthesims.com/Mayo will get you access and a discount to all of the premium tools. But if you just want to do some research, just hit up runthesims.com, put in your email, use the advanced stats hub, and be on your way. Let's talk about injuries and the updates that we have going on right now. Jerry Jeudy has a high ankle sprain. He will not miss the remainder of the season, but he's probably out at least 4 weeks for a minimum. That's usually the context of a high ankle sprain. So I expect Tim Patrick to fill in for him as a starter with KJ Hamler, complementing Noah Fant in the slot. So it'd be Tim Patrick when we get to the rankings. He's going to be pretty high up there as a potential fill-in for the week. Odell Beckham obviously did not play with his knee injury. Neither did Keelan Cole. Both are questionable for week 2. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside missed the game, and Tyrell Williams left with a head injury as well. So both those guys are questionable for week 2. Michael Gallup is out 3 to 5 weeks. Cedric Wilson, it has been said, will start in his place. At least that's what Kellen Moore is telling us. So I don't love Cedric Wilson unless it's like the deepest of leagues. But for a DraftKings play against the Chargers this week, not bad. 3 to 5 weeks with that calf injury for Michael Gallup. Ryan Fitzpatrick has been placed on injured reserve, so he'll miss at least 3 weeks. Tyler Heineke will start in his place. I would expect Fitzpatrick to miss way more time than that. And it doesn't seem like Ron Rivera is too keen on bringing in Cam Newton. So it looks like we're going to roll with Tyler Heineke and Kyle Allen as the backup in Washington for the moment. Raheem Mostert, no new news on him besides it's not an ACL. The MRI has not come back yet, so we don't have information on that. More on that in the running back pickup section. And Rashad Penny's calf injury that forced him to leave against Indianapolis is just minor. He'll probably be back. He wasn't doing anything anyway. 2 carries for 8 yards. Chris Carson is the guy in that backfield as long as he doesn't put the ball on the ground or remains healthy, which are 2 things that are pretty difficult for Chris Carson. But as long as he's running good, he should have had a bigger game against Indianapolis. Just some bad luck around the goal line. But in terms of usage, in terms of yardage, in terms of the receiving game work, it was his. So Chris Carson looking really good going out for the rest of the year. Jared Wills for the Cleveland Browns, offensive lineman, just day-to-day. That's great news for them. Mekhi Becton and his kneecap going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. So stream people against the Jets. I know you can't stream the Patriots, but they couldn't block with Becton in. I Imagine what it's going to be like with Becton out. And that was against Carolina. Pretty good pass rush with Carolina, but just stream against the Jets for the moment because it's going to be such a sack floor base once we get into their weaker opponents and guys that are actually available to stream on the waiver wire. And Lyle Collins is suspended 5 games for the Dallas Cowboys. Hopefully they get Zach Martin back this week from his positive COVID test. He should be back, so at least that helps out their offensive line a little bit. One of these days, all 5 of their offensive linemen are going to play together. They haven't played together since 2019. That, it's coming. Maybe like 5 weeks from now, when Collins returns, everything will be okay with the Cowboys offensive line, and they'll be at full strength. The only other note is Josh Jacobs. He has an illness. He's questionable. He's likely to play in Monday Night Football. But if not, it'll probably be Kenyon Drake back there. Maybe Royce Freeman will be the one who comes in to spell him. Listen, I always if you play in a league, Yahoo is really the only one like this, but you can do the old running back trick where you just have the rotating spot at the end of your bench, pick up running back handcuffs in the primetime games, just in case the starter gets hurt, then you don't actually have to compete with anyone else on the waiver wire. You can go pick them up. So from the Baltimore side of the ball, obviously it's Latavius Murray, Tyson Williams expected to get the bulk of the workload in Monday Night Football. So you go pick up Lat Murray or you go pick up Kenyon Drake is probably owned, so you'd have to pick up Royce Freeman in that circumstance. It's probably, if it happens once a year and you cash in, it's worth the 3 seconds that you have to do. You do have to waste a bench spot on that rotating guy, but that's not the end of the world. Are you really that concerned about the last guy on your bench, especially with no bye weeks going on right now? No, is the answer to that. So it's just an extra 2% way to get a leg up on the competition. It breaks your way once. You save all the fab money. You make sure you have that guy ahead of when waivers actually happen. And it only actually, in terms of league settings, Yahoo, I think, is the only one where that applies to. I could be wrong about that, but I just know in my standard Yahoo settings, that is a trick that you can pull. You may as well take advantage of it. Running back, waiver wire for week 1, I go Latavius Murray, Eli Mitchell, Tony Jones, Kenneth Gainwell, Leonard Fournette, that awful Mark Ingram, Naheem Hines, James White, and Cordero Patterson. So the reason that I don't have Eli Mitchell at number 1 is I don't know the extent of Colonel Mostert's injury. So he could be back next week. I doubt he's going to be back next week, but he could be back next week. And then it's still Shanahan. Trey Sermon will probably be active next week. JaMychal Hasty might get some run. If you are convinced that Mostert's out for ages and Eli Mitchell is the guy, you could walk into a top 10 running back. I am not going to deny that. I just think that is on the very thin end of range of outcomes for him. I'm probably not going to end up with him in any of my leagues. I just don't feel like spending a top waiver priority or a bunch of fab bucks. Latavius Murray does seem like the logical player to me that you still want to go get. Yes, Tyson Williams will get some extended run and be the lead ball carrier in Monday Night Football in week 1. But by week 4, this could very well be Latavius's backfield. So it's a team that, like the 49ers, that excel in the running game, but we don't know who it's going to be. Plus, Mostert will eventually come back, likely, for the San Francisco 49ers. With the Ravens, it's basically between Murray and Williams as the 1A, 1B complement to Lamar Jackson in the running game. So you can just kind of backdoor your way into a running back, not a running back 1 for fantasy, like a mid-tier to low-end running back 2 with Latavius Murray with some touchdown upside. So that's the way I'd go. Tony Jones, I thought, looked spry and would be probably the for sure replacement for Alvin Kamara should anything happen to him. I wouldn't play him on a weekly basis, but he's a nice bench guy. Gainwell is going to get some run opposite Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts. Again, he's not a guy you'd want to start, but his role could become very nice should anything happen to Miles Sanders. I like him a lot, and you can just have him on the team. Leonard Fournette, I don't want to own Leonard Fournette, but just based on the usage that he got in week 1, that can always flip back to Ronald Jones in week 2. Maybe Gio's a bit healthier in week 2. Who knows going forward? Like after this, it's all just a crapshoot of deep league guys. Mark Ingram, I have at number 6. And just frankly, he had 26 carries, couldn't even get to 100 yards. Yes, he scored a touchdown. He had 26 carries, a touchdown, and scored 14 fantasy points. That's not great. And how many times is Mark Ingram going to get 26 carries in a game for the Texans this year? They don't get to play Jacksonville every single week. So where are all these carries coming from? I'm just not buying it. If you have them, sell them to some moron in your league. Don't waste the money on Mark Ingram. That awful Mark Ingram. He's the worst. Hines, James White, Cordero Patterson. Moving on to wide receivers. This is where it gets a little bit interesting. I have Sterling Shepard at number 1 right now. Just the familiarity with Daniel Jones. Kenny Golladay, listen, he's going to be the number one, but he is owned in every league. I think that it puts him above Slayton. I know Ingram was out, but it does seem like there is a rapport there. The safety with Sterling Shepard and the routes that he runs on the Giants, and it looks like they're going to be throwing a lot this year. So I like Sterling Shepard. Jamison Crowder, I have at number 2. He'll return from the COVID list this week. It does seem like Zach Wilson favors Corey Davis, but he's going to favor the slot guy as well. Last week, that was Braxton Berrios. Jamison Crowder will play that role coming back. Yes, Elijah Moore will get better. He won't finish in the negative every single week, but Crowder is a good receiver when he is healthy. He has sure hands. He runs crisp routes, and that's just great for a rookie receiver, especially one that's going to have to throw a ton of the time with no offensive line, so he's going to have to throw it quickly, and those are the routes that Jamison Crowder runs. Tim Patrick at number 3. You can pick up Tim Patrick number 1 if you need someone to play like for the next 4 weeks or so. I do fully expect him to fill in for Judy in this spot, and Teddy B looking pretty good at Jacksonville this week, too. It's a pretty compelling start. Nelson Aguilar at number 4. We kind of, they spent all the money on him. And obviously, N'Keal Harry is out right now. But I think we just forgot that they went out and spent the money on him, that they were going to use him. So I think that he's not going to be like an elite receiver in the Patriots offense, but he's someone that you consider starting every single week. That's usually worth of a bench spot. And for deeper leagues, KJ Osborne on the Vikings looked pretty good. Once he removed his dreads from the back of his name bar, I was like, who the fuck is 17? Oh, it's KJ Osborne. Then I have to look up who that is. But listen, if the offensive line for the Vikings is just not going to be good, and their defense is going to be this putrid every single week, like if Cincinnati's posting points on you and you got to play from behind, yeah, it's going to be Jefferson, it's going to be Thielen, it's going to be Dalvin Cook. But if they're not going to be a great team and going to be playing in some shootouts, there's always different options for deeper leagues to mine some value from players like this. I mentioned Cedric Wilson and even KJ Osborne for that matter. In normal leagues, like you probably don't need them. DraftKings wise, they're going to be cheap. It's pretty good. Christian Kirk and Terrace Marshall I have on the list. Christian Kirk, I just don't think you're ever going to know when to play him. He's going to have these boom weeks like we saw in week 1. Then he's going to do nothing for like 2 weeks. That's just the Christian Kirk experience. Terrace Marshall, it was a bit concerning if you own Robbie Anderson. 3 targets in that game, and he did it all on one play. Thank God for the one play. Terrace Marshall was actually far more involved in the actual target share from Sam Darnold. So I think later on down the line as a stash, Terrace Marshall is looking pretty good. If we move to tight ends, going back to the Vikings, Tyler Conklin severely outsnapped Chris Herndon, actually got involved. There's not like great guys you can pick up off the waiver wire at tight ends, or more like 1 week streams, but it's a compelling matchup this week against Arizona, who historically have not been very good against a tight end, but Kirk Cousins isn't going to have any time to throw, and Chandler Jones is in his face with this offensive line that seemingly can't. They couldn't block the Bengals defensive line. How are they going to just even channel a modicum of respect to protect Kirk Cousins in this circumstance against Arizona, who's just getting to the quarterback at the moment? Maybe I'm wrong, but Tyler Conklin, at least until Chris Herndon gets more integrated in this offense, seems like he has a pretty safe floor. Dalton Schultz, with that Gallup injury, I do think is a more compelling play than Blake Jarwin right now. You're going to have to get lucky that it's one of his games. Adam Troutman played 82% of the snaps for the Saints. Yes, it was Joanna Man Johnson who caught the 2 touchdowns. I have him at number 4, but he didn't really play all that often. And maybe you're just trying to stream touchdowns, but that could end up in a big 0 for you pretty quickly. I don't love Troutman, don't love Johnson. Pharaoh Brown for deeper leagues with the Texans. Anthony Miller will return this week. That'll probably push Amendola to the side, maybe Nico Collins to the side. Obviously, Brendan Cooks is safe, but 5 targets for a tight end in an offense that you would think that probably has to throw most weeks. Pharaoh Brown was the leading target getter of the tight ends from Tyrod Taylor. So an interesting name to keep in deeper leagues. QB streams for the weeks, I like Mac Jones against the Jets. Just anyone going against the Jets right now. Joyner's out for the season. They have no pass rush to speak of, so it'd be a nice spot for Mac Jones to pad his numbers a little bit in New York. Tyler Heineke against the Giants. I actually have Teddy Bridgewater you could play him at number 1 of all of these guys if you really wanted to at Jacksonville. It seems like a game where they can gash Jacksonville on the ground, just like the Texans did, but it also could be a circumstance like he had some great deep balls on Sunday against the Giants. Just, Hamler couldn't bring it down. So it was actually Teddy played better than the numbers actually showed. He's also 22-3 against the spread on the road as a starter in the NFL. So Denver, let's go. They are bigger favorites this week, but they did, have a pretty even split between Javonte and Melvin Gordon. Melvin obviously broke off the big 70-yard run, but I would expect to see a lot from those two guys. So I think there's a cap ceiling on Teddy Bridgewater, even if the floor is really nice. Then Jameis Winston against Carolina. It's tough to know what to do. Yeah, 5 touchdowns every week. Hey, just play Jameis Winston, but didn't really throw the ball all that much because they didn't have to, but when they did get in close, they did throw it. So it's a tricky circumstance because they're favorites over Carolina right now on the road. Could that swing back the other way? Are they going to go deep into the receiving game? Do they not trust their receivers? I think there's something a little bit fishy, especially when you throw 5 touchdowns for under 200 yards in a game. But, obviously Jameis's upside, we know what that is. Streaming D's for the week, I got New Orleans at Carolina. A lot of people did not use them last week and left them on the waiver wire because they were playing Green Bay. Now you can go get them because it turns out that Carolina also can't block, and now they're down another offensive lineman. Cleveland against Houston. Again, almost like New Orleans, Cleveland was left alone on the week 1 pickups because they were playing Kansas City, and you probably didn't want to play them. You want to play them against Houston. Arizona at home against Minnesota, and that lack of offensive line. Then I said Chicago against Cincinnati. Not that I think that Chicago's defense is great, but the Vikings were able to generate a ton of pressure on Joe Burrow. We know that their offensive line is absolute garbage, so you might be able to backdoor your way into some free sacks, and maybe in more competitive leagues, those 3 defenses are already owned. Then you have the Bears, who could be looking good, maybe even the Bengals as well, as they were able to get into the backfield as well, and hopefully you get some turnover luck with all the pressure that's generated from those 2 teams. That was the updated waiver wire and injury report. You can check out my full rankings. I'll update them again on Tuesday if any information changes up on dknation.com. You can find the link in the description. Smash the like on the way out. Remember to tune in to Fantasy Football Picks and Bets and sub to that show as well and help support it on Mayo Media Network. I have my show out from Sunday night recapping the week. Plus, there was Monday Night Football picks with Griffin Swanson, then Lauren Carpenter and Laquan Jones had their own recap from the fantasy side up on Mayo Media Network right now. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!